The victory at Elah transformed David overnight. He was promoted to a high-ranking commander in Saul's army, marching from triumph to triumph across the contested borders of Canaan. But as the adulation of the masses washed over the young hero, a toxic seed of paranoia was taking root in the king's mind. Returned from a victorious military campaign, the women of Israel emerged from the cities, dancing and playing tambourines with joyous abandonment. They sang a victory song that would seal David's fate. Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands.
The Lord is my strength and my song. He has become my salvation. Slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s.
It was a song of pure praise for their protector, but to Saul, it was a lethal indictment. The paranoid monarch interpreted the rhyme as a direct declaration of treason. From that day forward, Saul did not look at David with gratitude, but with the cold, calculating eyes of a murderer. Yet, even as the crown slipped further from Saul's grasp, a deeper web of destiny was weaving itself through the palace courts. David found an unexpected anchor in the lion's den: Jonathan, the crown prince. Jonathan was everything David was not born to the purple. Surrounded by royal privilege, the natural heir to the throne, by all the brutal laws of ancient politics, Jonathan should have viewed David as a mortal rival to be eliminated. Instead, the scriptures record one of the most profound and sacred friendships in human history. The soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David. He loved him as his own very soul. In a secret, breathtaking ceremony away from the king's prying eyes, Jonathan stripped himself of his royal robe, his military armor, his sword, and his bow, giving them all to David. It was far more than a simple gift of affection. It was a political earthquake. The true heir to the throne was silently stepping aside, recognizing that the shepherd boy from Bethlehem was heaven's chosen king. But Saul's madness was growing wilder by the hour, and even Jonathan's profound loyalty would not be enough to stop the coming storm.
They whisper, they plot against me, but the throne is mine. It is mine. I will not yield it.
One day, David, all of this will be yours. A heavy crown awaits, but we shall face it together.
The tormenting spirit had returned to Saul with a vengeance, and this time, it meant blood. During a quiet evening musical performance meant to soothe the king, Saul's psychosis boiled over into pure rage. He grabbed his heavy bronze spear, his muscles tensing with lethal intent. Flying speed, he hurled the spear straight at David, attempting to pin him directly to the stone wall. David ducked in the nick of time as the weapon shattered the masonry. It was a clear, unmistakable message. The king wanted him dead. For his daughter, Michal, who genuinely loved David as a wife, setting a gruesome bride price, 100 Philistine foreskins, hoping David would be butchered in the attempt. But David returned from the bloody clash with 200, victorious and unharmed. Now, Saul's mask slipped completely. He dispatched royal assassins to surround David's house and murder him in his bed at dawn.
You must go now, before my father's men arrive at the door.
But Michal, risking her own life for the man she loved, discovered the plot. Under the cover of pitch-black darkness, Michal lowered David through a high palace window into the alley below. To buy him precious hours, she took a household teraphim idol, placed it in his bed, covered its head with a mat of goat's hair for texture, and draped it in garments to fake a restless sleeper. When the king's guards forced the door open, Michal told them he was violently ill. By the time the ruse was discovered and exposed, David was already far beyond the city gates. The anointed king of Israel was now an outlaw fugitive. The palace luxury, the harp melodies, the royal favor, all of it evaporated in a single night. David was forced to flee into the brutal, unforgiving wilderness, running for his life from the very father figure he had served with unblemished loyalty. David fled first to Samuel in the safety of Ramah, seeking spiritual shelter and the prophet's counsel. But Saul's relentless hunting hounds were soon closing in on their trail. Realizing the royal court was entirely lost to him, David pushed further south into the barren, scorched wastes of the Judean wilderness. He found temporary, damp refuge in the cave of Adullam, a dark, gaping maw in the face of a sheer limestone cliff. It was a humiliating sanctuary for a man who had commanded thousands. Yet, Adullam was destined to become the true crucible of David's legendary greatness. Word spread across the dry hills that the giant Slayer was alive and hiding in the desert, and out of the cracks of a fractured society, the dregs of ancient Israel began to flock to him. The biblical record tells us that everyone who was in deep distress, everyone crushed by unpayable debt, and everyone bitter in soul gathered around him. 400 broken men, a ragtag militia of social outcasts, dead slaves, and desperate renegades. In the eyes of Saul's formal kingdom, they were worthless trash, but under David's magnetic, hardened leadership, they were forged into a lethal, fiercely loyal guerrilla fighting force.
For the God of Israel! Charge! Ambush them now! Go!
This period marks the most formative evolution of David's life. He learned to survive on absolute nothingness in a land that offered no mercy. He learned to command men who had nothing left to lose, turning outlaws into brothers in arms. Operating out of hidden desert bases, David and his men began conducting lightning-fast guerrilla raids against foreign enemies, protecting the vulnerable border villages of Judah from Philistine marauders, even while his own paranoid king hunted him like a rabid animal. Yet, the psychological toll was crushing. David was the officially anointed king of the realm, yet he was sleeping on cold stone floors. To survive, he was forced into desperate expedients, fleeing to foreign, Philistine territories where he had to feign foaming madness, letting thick spit run down his beard just to trick pagan kings into letting him live. The divine anointing had promised an ultimate crown, but the immediate reality was a daily nightmare of survival. The ultimate test of David's character and his claim to the throne came in the stark, arid canyons of En Gedi, overlooking the deadly salt expanse of the Dead Sea. Informed by informants that David was hiding in the limestone crags, Saul mobilized 3,000 elite, hand-picked soldiers for a final extermination sweep. During the intense search, Saul entered a deep, cavernous shadow alone to relieve himself, completely unaware that deep in the black recesses of that very cave, David and his chosen captains were holding their breath against the rock walls.
The moment is here. Finally, we strike at dawn. No mercy this time.
David's commanders immediately saw the moment through the lens of bloody pragmatism. They whispered in the dark, their eyes wide with hungry anticipation. "This is the very day the Lord promised you. He has delivered your sworn enemy straight into your hand." The throne of Israel was sitting just inches away in the dark, one silent thrust of a dagger, and the years of running, the constant terror, the starvation, the cave life, it would all be over forever. David crept forward through the absolute blackness, his heart pounding in his ears. He raised his weapon over the crouching king, but right at the threshold of ultimate victory, his conscience arrested him. Instead of driving the blade into Saul's back, David lowered his hand and delicately sliced off just the corner edge of the king's royal robe. Yet, even for this minor act of disrespect, David's heart immediately smote him with profound guilt. To David, despite Saul's demonic madness, the man remained God's consecrated king. He turned sharply to his men, fiercely forbidding them from laying a hand on Saul, and let the monarch walk out of the cave completely unharmed. Minutes later, as Saul walked down the mountain trail, David stepped out into the blinding daylight of the canyon ledge, bowing his face all the way to the dusty earth. "My lord the king," David shouted across the rocky gorge, holding up the fluttering piece of royal fabric. "Look at the corner of your robe in my hand. I cut it off, but I did not kill you. Understand and see that there is no evil or treason in my hands, yet you hunt my soul to take it." When Saul heard that familiar voice echoing off the canyon walls and saw the precise cut in his own garment, the mad king broke completely. His imperial pride shattered into dust, and he wept aloud under the desert sun. "Is that truly your voice, David, my son?" Saul cried back across the valley, his voice cracking with sudden, agonizing remorse. "You are far more righteous than I. You have repaid me with pure good, whereas I have repaid you with pure evil." It was a moment of agonizing, raw human tragedy. The hunter brought completely low by the radical mercy of his prey. But David knew the cold reality of politics and mental illness. Saul's tears were as fleeting as a desert flash flood. The throne of Israel would not be won through the cowardly blood of an assassination, but neither would it be handed over freely. David turned back toward the shadows of the wilderness. The fugitive must wait. The crown of Israel was being forged not in the easy spoils of war, but in the unforgiving, purified fires of time.